This is episode number 241 with the incredible master artist, Kathryn Stats.
This is the Plein Air Podcast with Rhoads, publisher and founder of Plein Air Magazine. In the Plein Air Podcast, we cover the world of outdoor painting. Called plein air, the French coined the term, which means open air or outdoors. The French pronounce it plein air. Others say plein air. No matter how you say it, there is a huge movement of artists around the world who are going outdoors to paint. And this show is about that movement. Now, here's your host, author, publisher, and painter, Rhoads.
Thank you, Jim Kipping, and welcome to the Plein Air Podcast. Man, it is so nice to be here today, and it is spring here in Austin, Texas. And spring, what that means is the wildflowers are going to be coming out. I saw my first Indian paintbrush just yesterday, and I saw a couple of crepe myrtles with the beautiful purple blossoms, and so it's going to be blossom time. Soon we will have fields, literally fields of bluebonnets. Now, every year is different. Some years are hard to find. Some years you can find them everywhere. So we'll find out soon, but I'll be out painting those. This past weekend, I went to a place about 2-3 hours from Austin into the middle of, Texas country, hill country. And I painted there, and it was wonderful, set up next to a stream and painted a lot of different scenery there. So it was a lot of fun for me. And finally able to get out and not even have to wear a coat. As a matter of fact, I had to start shedding layers because it was too warm. And that's a nice thing. It's nice to have the weather back. And I hope that happens for you wherever you are. One thing that I found frustrating, though, is that having not painted for a while, the first two paintings really were bad, and then you just kind of get your rhythm back and then everything is okay. But it's a reminder to practice all the time. I think this daily painting idea is a really good idea. Hey, coming up after the interview, in the Art Marketing Minute, I'm going to be talking about the balancing act of your art making and then running the business as well, if you're selling art, and also how to introduce yourself as a new style or new genre of painting. So we'll talk about those things coming up. I may have mentioned before that we are now voted number 1 in the FeedSpot list of painting podcasts, and that's our second year in a row. Thank you for making that happen. We are humbled. I know that's hard to believe, but we really truly are. And this week, we've been planning our big birthday party. Yep, we have a 10-year birthday of the Plein Air Convention. It's just hard to believe. I was thinking about all the people that I met at the first Plein Air Convention 12 years ago. And I say 12 years. Why do we have 12 years ago to celebrate our 10-year? Well, there was that 2-year gap with COVID. Anyway, we're doing some big things to celebrate our 10th, some party things. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's the year to come. And we also are going to have television and film star Jane Seymour is visiting. Jane is going to be there painting with us the entire week. As you know, she's a painter, and it's going to be nice to have her there. We're going to have her on stage doing a little something. And, she's just there to help us celebrate. So that's pretty cool. And hopefully you'll get a chance to meet her and get to know her. Also, we have some incredible painters lined up, and you can look at pleinairconvention.com for that. Seedway Monday is going to be coming. We have some music planned. We have 5 stages. We have daily painting together. We're going to be painting in some incredible places like Garden of the Gods and Rocky Mountain National Park. We have a pre-convention workshop with Lori Putnam, and we also have a beginner's day for baby plein air painters. And we actually have in the beginner's day, we have people who will work with you all week when we go out painting. So you have somebody who is kind of a companion for you to kind of stay with the group and work with them, some great instructors. So that's cool. We also have what we call field painters, and those people work with everybody. You need help, you just raise your hand. We're there to help you. Now, today, my guest is Kathryn Stats, and she is a rock star painter. She grew up out west and she wandered into the Utah countryside on her horse until she was in her early 20s. She studied with artists in the Salt Lake area. And by the way, there were a lot of artists, great artists around the Salt Lake area. She studied with those artists for continuous 20 years. Her work is very well known, not really echoing the styles of anybody. She's got her own unique style. We're going to talk about that today. And she has, of course, traveled and painted to coastal areas of California, Oregon, as well as Alaska, Russia, Spain, Italy, France, Portugal. And she is always returning to the landscapes of the West, which is where her heart resides. So, Kathryn, welcome to the Plein Air Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to see you after all these years.
It's been too long. I think the last time I saw you was in person was at the Plein Air convention.
I was young.
Oh, stop. Oh, stop.
Okay.
Hey, if you're breathing, then that's all that matters. Right?
Upright. You're upright. Yeah.
So, Kathryn, how did this painting journey begin for you?
Oh, when I was younger in high school and so forth, I loved color, of course. In a sewing class, when you'd be talking about the opposite colors on the color wheel, and and so I was curious and interested enough to tell myself enough of that opposite color business. I like the analogous ones, and I was always interested in that. My sister was supposed to be an artist. She was very, very, very good, and I didn't consider myself anything like that. So I was married, probably so I wouldn't have to go to college. Oh, we don't want to give that away. And I never had given myself permission to have art supplies. And whenever anyone else had them, I just used them and acted like I was just smitten. And so one day I got myself a cheap set of pastel colors, and I copied pictures in Walter Foster's How to Paint books.
Uh-huh.
And those were pretty good books. I copied the stuff out of them. And then we moved to Brazil in 72.
Brazil?
Yeah, to Rio.
What prompted that?
My husband was with Dun and Bradstreet. And so here I am with two little kids and nothing to do. And I bought my first set of paints, the little wood box with a starter set. And I started copying postcards from there. And luckily, in the end, we came back after a year. I was very unhappy about that to begin with, but it's when I started painting for serious. And I don't think we have it to show, but I have a picture of my very first plein air painting out in the back of our apartment. It was a field with horses, and there was a barn, and at each end was identical trees and a little fence line going in there, and mountains behind.
So how does that painting hold up today now that you see it with your perspective?
I have pictures of it. I have that one, and I have one that I did a couple of years ago. And my good friend Marcy Bailey pointed out the similarities in the beginning one and in the later one. And first I didn't really want to hear that, but it's true. There was a barn, but it was much better. So I love having those two images to show. And
I think it's really important to keep our past work so we can look backwards.
Yes, and I don't keep the best stuff here. I'm too greedy, but yes, I do have some that I keep, and I'm so happy to at least have the images. So anyway, I started with these little paint sets, and anyway, I took my little plein air painting to a night course for, paint at the high school at night, some teacher, and I showed it to her, and she said, well, if you put black on the dark sides of those mountains and white on the light side, that would be much better. And I said, well, what about those fence posts? Don't they need to disappear? No, it's not really important. And I thought, and I will not swear this time, but I thought, blank, I know more than she does. And so she doesn't know anything. So then I found my great uncle by marriage is LeConte Stewart. He's a very famous old painter in Edgar Payne's time. And what's his name? Dixon, Maynard Dixon. They were friends. And so I asked him with whom I should study. And he recommended a really fine teacher. And that's where I learned color.
And who was the teacher that you
Frank
studied with?
Erickson. And I studied with him and met my best friend for life there. And we go out and take pictures and slides and compete more or less, healthy competition. And I was very angry with Frank because he wouldn't let me use brown or black or gray or anything. And I thought, well, what's a girl to do? So the second painting I chose, so he started you with 3 colors, alizarin, phthalo, blue, and yellow ochre. And man, it's like you mix 90% and you paint 10%. And then the next year you shift that triad a click, to the left. So you've got orange, green, and violet. They were the wrong orange, green, and violet,
Uh-huh.
But anyway, after that, I was not afraid to mix anything. Bless his heart. And I even chose a really gray painting, dead aspens on a hillside or something. And I thought, he can't let me paint that without using gray. And boy, gosh, he did. And brown, now I figure I try to stay away from brown because everything wants to be brown. And so it was really valuable learning.
All right, I want to stop there and focus on that for just a second because these are important lessons. Talk to us about this idea of painting with three colors, a limited palette. Are you doing that still, or is it something that you would recommend for somebody as you've got to learn this before you do anything else?
It's really important if you're interested and you love mixing color. It's very important. I start with 3 basic red, yellow, blues, and that can be, I choose what they are, or orange, green, and violets. Those are opal colors to me. In Cinderella Golden Books, the wicked stepmother had a purple dress and turquoise plumes coming out. I mean, what a wonderful thing. And then you balance that with gold. Anyway, no, I think it's important to do it. And they can at least be your base colors. I love to get a different color and run home and mix it with white and mix it with something else and see how it works. But I think more in groups of 3s rather than just complementary colors. There's nothing wrong with either one. Now, my sister was having a terrible time doing color, and she took painting classes from a guy who's just a great painter, and he was more of the pre-impressionist. But he was saying to her, use brown to warm it and black to cool it, and it works too. So I'm not saying there's only one way to skin that cat, but I just think in terms of violets being your brown. And if you've got a violet and it's too red, if you've got a violet that looks like Kool-Aid, blue and red and really, you can gray that down with just a whisper of lemon yellow, and it takes it right down to gray.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to go into this too much, that's a lifetime.
No, but I think these are important things. And let's talk about graying things down. When I was out painting this past weekend, the first instinct was to use that garish color, even though it was a pretty color, but I lay it down and it doesn't work. But when I grade it down, so do you want to give people a couple of thoughts about graying things down?
Well, your bright, gorgeous colors mean more if there's a gray near them. If you're going from, if you don't just stick with that color and get hotter and hotter, so people die of thirst just looking at it. So you have to remember your grays. And I got a sort of what I'm going to tell you about from a Ted Gorshner book years ago, and they were mother grays. And so there's one with, you can mix up, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna make a wonderful gray. They'll make a dead center gray, those two. Alizarin crimson and phthalo green, you mix up all these different colors, and by the way, it's not exactly opposite on the color wheel, because which red, which yellow, And so I mixed up a bunch of them and wrote what the combination was. And my favorite one to keep on my palette, and he was using Prism Violet. I can't find that anymore. I can't remember what made it. So I use a quinacridone violet and cobalt blue, and then mix enough white to keep it a mid-tone. You'll basically want it the same value as what you're graying. But I keep it on my palette all the time. And there's a warmer one where you've got some maybe orange and some yellow ones, a bunch of burnt sienna or something. And then you gray it with a whisper of a blue. It doesn't matter if you use a warm blue, you get a little different thing, or a cool blue. And so that's red rock kind of stuff, but I don't use it in that. I use violet. So, and then there are other ones where you're mixing secondary colors, more earth tones. Indian red, if you're not using that right, you'll hate it. But Indian red, either ultramarine blue or what's that, Prussian blue, depending on what you want to get out of it, and yellow ochre. It's a wonderful triad if you're using enough white to see what you've got. And those are great for distant grays, say in red rock. You can get a pinks, the most beautiful violets and blues and pinks out of that. You just have to try it. You have to be interested enough to waste a whole lot of paint and try it. And so any three, you pick them. I'd say with the orange, green, and violet, it should be not a phthalo green. That was just horrible. And then we had two violets, a cool and a warm. But yeah, I'd get probably a lighter green for that triad. But it's experimenting. So I like quinacridone colors. And I like to get new stuff and just play with it and see what works.
So you don't find that when you add new things all the time, it's throwing off your painting rhythm, your mixing rhythms?
It's supposed to wake you up and make you think.
Yeah, well, that's important.
I have a painting I did with Indian red, yellow ochre, and it was Prussian blue, and it was down in Abbey Q Ghost Ranch.
Yeah. And
I got the most gorgeous turquoises out of that when you get into the yellows and a little bit of red. And so it was you would never have known. So make yourself do it. It's good for your brain. But I do have a specific combination of three that I'll work with. Usually in, like in gray days, snow. Boy, it's amazing what snow does. When it's a clear day, boy, those blues and those shadows are breathtaking. Yeah. And in gray days, they're a little more muted. So
are you saying that I want to get some clarity on this. You always, when you paint, for the most part, you always use a triad of three versions, but you sounds like you're using different versions of triads depending on what you're painting.
Yeah. Now for ocean on the West Coast where it's so turquoise, then I use, and I learned this is Paul Forrester's combination that I learned from a friend, and it was the Prussian blue, and the only time I ever use, not that you shouldn't, raw sienna, raw umber, raw umber and Prussian blue and yellow ochre. Okay, so you get that deep water feel from when you're using the umber and the blue. Oh, and I keep that gray thing over there, the violet one, with the cobalt blue and the quinacridone violet. I keep that pile over there on the right side and always keep it out. So then as you're getting lighter and more turquoise, that you're dropping the umber and you're picking up the ochre. And pretty soon it's going to look like an Easter egg, and you have to gray it down, handle it, even though you're loving those colors, with the violet combination. It'll gray it down. It'll gray greens down too. It's just have something that you like. Some people use Winsor. No. What's a gray of grays?
Oh, well, there's a series of grays that I think Utrecht makes.
Yeah, it's a Holbein Holbein Gray of Grays. They
Combine
make
grays.
every color, and it's a really nice one.
Yeah.
So then you discover that if you use Gray of Grays and ultramarine blue and white on a sort of almost bright day, but not, the top of the snow as it's flat picks up the sky, that's a perfect, beautiful snow color.
Uh-huh.
Gray of Grays and ultramarine blue.
Right.
And you just find this by being curious.
Okay.
You know?
Terrific.
Yeah.
So, talk to me. Let's finish the story about how you kind of transformed into becoming a full-time artist. You were learning this. Your sister was painting. Tell me what was happening from that point forward.
Well, my sister wasn't painting. She was in nursing school, and I didn't go to college because I didn't want to. I was stupid. Because people that are college educated, at least they know how to study and deliver the goods. So,
Still
I
time,
had-
Kathryn.
pardon me.
Still time.
Kill-
Still time to go to college.
Oh, I know, but it wouldn't hurt either. So I had these paints, and I was taking classes from Frank, and going with my friend, and painting and painting, and pretty soon it started. And we had another mentor, Ken Baxter, that we were plein air painting with. We were his students, and that's what turned into Utah Plein Air Painters, Plein Air Painters of Utah. And so we were always going out and doing real crap. The first one I ever did, I was trying to paint 1,000 miles away in a field. And when I got the slide back, all you could see was the field. And, you just learn and compete. And then it was pretty, after a few years, Southwest Art Paintings that people were advertising, you'd think, gee, I can paint that well. Sometimes you think these people, anybody can advertise, is what it said to me. So that means your taste is changing and you're seeing better. But all those years of being out and feeling crippled because I couldn't put on the canvas what I was seeing or feeling.
So how do you get there? What, for the
You keep
person
painting.
who's hearing that and relating to that, how do you get from being hampered to, you see it, but you can't figure out how to do it? Is it
You have
just
to keep
mileage?
doing that. I set up a goal, and one of my goals was to run from violet up to peach, and all the things in the middle. And you set up goals for yourself. It takes curiosity and it takes passion. And actually, for years, I thought I've been heard to say this too in a video in front of God and everybody, that color is more important than value. And I'm lucky I did as well as I did, because it's really not true. You all know that by now. And so
I remember you telling me that you painted for a long, long time before you really ever studied value.
yeah, I thought, I didn't think I had a problem with it until reflected light on something started looking like I had a hole in the painting. Or, warm reflected light. I was painting it too light. Okay, try painting shadow on a yellow wall. Try painting shadow, painting shadow in dark and light in Red Rock country. And you'll find out that it's not violet. It's not, I learned that, shadows were great and they were bluer and gray or whatever. And that if you add that to pine trees, you're going to get something fairly scary instead of a warmer violet, a warmer something in there. And so you just start observing. I was standing in the yard one day, and there was a cast shadow on the lawn, and I noticed that where that lightest part met the shadow, it was more intense in chroma.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that, oh yeah, these people are making those shadow edges warm up a little, and it's because it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And just curiosity and passion. So classes were excellent, and they were really important. And thank gosh for the internet. Now we can see things online, and Streamline does an excellent job posting this stuff online for people to watch.
Thank you.
So
So talk to me about, so you obviously took these lessons, when did you decide to actually start marketing or selling your work?
Okay, I was teaching. Oh, and you learn more from teaching than the students ever will get from you. And so I was teaching and I was getting better and things looked worse. And I think I got in a gallery. Yes, it was a local gallery. And boy, that was big time, you know. And then there's a point where you want to go to that next level. And I observed on what got me to that next level when I started, well, painting with better painters. Maynard Dixon Country was great because you met the best painters in the country there and saw how they solve problems. I have a huge list of painters and their paintings and how they've solved a particular problem. I don't want to look like I'm painting like them, but I want to use those solving methods, doing a pine tree or something. So I noticed that what you do to step that level up of that painting is make a special area that's extra special. My friend that I had shared a studio with and I met in class, she said, well, why don't you stop dinking around with all those windows and get to the center of interest, you know? And why don't you get to where the party's at and really highlights, low lights, contrast, warm against cool, sharper edges, just really make a party right there. Some people refer to that as hanging the jewelry.
Right.
It's better than saying you're whoring it up, actually, but gets a laugh. But that's what it was, make special areas. And then I got picked up by Greenhouse Gallery and I was terrified that, boy, you are in over your head. And if you don't do this, it's yours to lose. So I really, actually the first year for a show, I painted all my successes from the past years. And then the next year that's where I really put my head to the grindstone, because I had to take a leap and have fresh stuff. And that's where I was putting figures in, some things, and doing more diverse subject matter. And then, so that's a step, that was a leap there. And we had many good years. Also, I usually paint red rock stuff. It's warm. Hey, we're so lucky we don't have to paint in, dare I say, Texas. I mean, I studied underdog paintings in Texas and took.
What are you saying about Texas?
It's bleak.
Great.
Yes, and high noon in Texas, you know, everything's the same. But I looked at underdog paintings and other Texas painters, and they did it because they made the ground as light as it deserves to be instead of following the rules. How it's the sky and then the ground and then this and that. It's the opposite way in Texas. The sky's darker than the ground. In a very broad way to speak.
Right.
But then I started joining an invitation to paint the Glacier Park. And I took a few trips up there and had an opportunity to, follow some plein air painters that were doing a show or something. I got to go as just a tag along. And I became quite smitten with that. And I was lucky. The first year they were having fires and a lot of smoke, which really helped me not paint every freaking pine tree back to the ridge because it wasn't there. And I thought, oh, this is what aerial perspective should be. But anyway, I painted so much glacier because I had to, and have shows up there that it really opened a whole new world for me, painting green. For years, when I was first starting to paint, I'd go up the canyon and meet friends, and I'd say, this is full of all that damn green, and I'm not going to paint and not go home because I didn't know how to handle it. But glacier helped. And also,
how do you handle it?
Great. A good green is great. Don't kid yourself. And also, I went to Russia and that Polanov, I can't remember his first name, Vasily Polanov. All those guys were painting. It looked like Utah maybe 100 years ago or something. Mm-hmm. So I learned to not be such a silly fool. In fact, if you're painting red rock, you better get some. Get ultramarine and yellow ochre and tint it way out, but it's going to go sort of a gray turquoise kind of thing. It's absolutely a must to put with your red hot colors. That makes it more real. Look at all Edgar Payne's paintings. there's a lot of green in them. They're rocks that you wouldn't think about.
Mm-hmm.
So you gather this stuff that you're interested in, that you have a passion for. As you go along, you just pick it up, and it helps to be with better painters or see their work and how they deliver it.
So
Because
who would you consider the inspirations? The people that I know you've picked up hundreds of books and so on, but who are the painters that really have inspired you?
Edgar Payne is a
Yeah,
big one,
talk to me
and
about Edgar Payne. Why?
uh, his 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 boldness of stroke, and yet okay, because it goes all those clouds could be made up of vertical square strokes and stacked up, but but managed. His colors and his brush strokes and his gosh, he does everything. Those sailboats, but I just feel his clouds are wonderful, and the way his distance that he gives things. I'm just crazy about his work.
Do you ever have you ever copied his work?
I don't think I've copied his work, but I sure have used his clouds for reference.
Yeah. I stumbled into a gallery the other day, and staring at me from across the room was a small Edgar Payne painting. And it's one
Oh,
that I knew, and one that I
uh-huh.
had loved, and one that I wished I could afford. And so I took a photo of it, and then I tried to paint it. And I learned a lot of little tiny subtleties that he would do, that I never would have anticipated. Just staring at it
Yeah.
wasn't enough. But when I went to paint it, there are little things that he created distance with that I had not seen before. Like,
You learn a lot, and that's a really important thing, because the subtleties are so important, but getting all precious is not. But being sensitive, getting all sensitive is. So you've got to have the whole gamut.
well, what do
Um,
you mean by precious and sensitive?
Precious is when everything's so worked to death with a number two brush, and every edge is hard, and there's no nuance. It's just, what do you call it when you're just drawing? Ref. See, I can't remember the word.
Sketching,
It's rendering. When you
render.
get
Oh
all
yeah,
into
render.
rendering, and everything is the same.
Yeah.
And sensitive is where you've got all the major stuff, and it's blocked in, and the values are working right, and the patterns are strong, but it's flat. And sometimes there's just a little turn of something or a little mark here, that makes it work, that completes it.
Talk to
And
me
so
about
sensitive.
patterns, because
Oh,
this is
yeah.
something that I'm just really starting to understand.
Well, patterns. I took a class from Matt Smith in 2002, I think, and it's the big shapes. So you get 3 to 6 big shapes, and by big shapes, it is value. To me, it is value values areas. Go over someone's painting, and draw around the masses. So these are masses, not objects. A sky's a mass.
Yeah.
Flat of the ground's a mass. Uh, and don't get too much minutia in there. Do it like a puzzle. Put it together like a puzzle, and then they're value masses. And actually, a really good thing to study is just values. So you're doing, a 4x6 sketching or with paint, two-tone, no tan, just black and white. And so if an area is middle, you don't know whether to push it lighter or darker, you have to do something to keep the number of value changes down. And then you do three value changes. And again, these are puzzle pieces. And you go to 4 and 5, and then you stand back and ask yourself, which is the most profound, the most interesting. And very often the answer comes back, less is more, as far as how many values are in there. My friend Garrett said he was a wonderful teacher, and we just love to mess with him. He'd say, there's 3,000,000,2,100 value changes in black and white, and there's this many hundred in color, and it's really, so what? to nail them down there so you have shape and form.
So do you feel like having values pretty compressed in a painting is a good idea? Which keeps it more tonal, or do you like to have a wide range of values?
I like a wide range. Yeah.
But you're saying within a shape, a big
Yeah.
shape, you want to kind of keep the values very close.
So here's this crooked finger. This joint is, this section is the longest.
Yeah, you're good.
This next, and this is that relationship in division of threes is
Yeah.
a good relationship to have light to dark, warm to light. And so that's, you want to organize those masses. Now, I'm not talking about minutia that breaks into them. Okay. But you start with the mass.
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep that value. You can put as many colors as you want in that, as long as it doesn't step out of that value range. Otherwise, it pokes holes in your painting.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this is a whole study course, if you want to.
Yeah. Well,
but it's
well,
basic.
and you have some videos out with Streamline, which is
Yeah.
wonderful, and a lot of people can study those. Or you're teaching on Plein Air Live. I think you're doing a critique on Plein Air Live, and you've taught at the convention. You'll be asked back, and so a lot of opportunities to learn this.
I'm running out, baby.
I would imagine you've as curious as you are, I bet you're always changing things up.
Yes. And so once you've established and feel comfortable in how you paint something, or, where you want to get an idea, then it's really important to be able to move things around and shake them up to make them more interesting. I wouldn't go doing it just to get, I'm a tree, I'm a mountain, I'm a lake, let's put them all together, But after you get so you know what you're doing, and you can change things up, and you should, to study making this larger and that smaller, and and I love Jill Carver, even though I'm so jealous of her. She's wonderful, and she will take, rather than painting the obvious scene, she'll paint, and this is a quote from someone, I don't remember, the essential. It's not the big, that's not the big easy picture, it's something over here, and make it interesting. And I think that's a real gift, not a gift. It's a very important thing to do.
Ken Oster had that gift as well. Everybody else is painting the whole landscape, and he's honing on one little piece of it that you would have never have thought of as being something you want to paint.
You said Oster?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lynch Meal.
Yeah.
He's got, the whole, this one painting is a whole cliff. And then it goes back to the stuff that led to it. And it's almost, and down here in that little tiny corner, there's a little river and stuff. And it's the damnedest thing. And it's the unexpected, and it works.
Yeah.
So, and I took Ray Roberts' class a couple of years because I was painting everything flat.
So Ray is one of your inspirations.
Oh, Lord, yes. His values are so wonderful, and his shapes, his mark making, and I was painting everything monochromatic and didn't know it and didn't know why. It was a period. So I just studied with him I took workshops from him for a couple of years, and he just, after that, he honors dark shapes and their shadows as though they are the objects themselves. I don't know if that's articulated correctly, but you can always pick out a Ray Roberts painting from the way he has worked his patterns, his dark patterns in. When he starts these paintings, it looks like a kindergarten kid did it, because he's got those dark patterns in there to start with. Not that that's the only way to do things. James Morgan does the most tremendous mark making I've ever seen. It blows me away. And it's his mark making that he comes on later with a lot of the time that will make that work. So I want it all. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. There's only a lifetime though, right?
Look at his mark making. It's amazing. And the shapes, and as they mutate, as they change, as they go along, I mean, I think he just, and I'm left speechless, which is a big deal at his paintings and how he does his mark making and the sensitivity. Talk about sensitive, but not precious, the subtleties. Anyway, I could
So
go
what would you say, Kathryn, are the essentials to remember as a painter? You got somebody watching this or hearing this for the first time and they're trying to figure this journey out. What are the key essentials for them?
as a beginning painter.
Yeah, or as any painter. I mean, what do you think are the things that are important to always remember?
So it's shapes. Drawing is terribly important, Kathryn, who didn't learn to draw much. My first teacher said, "You don't need to know how to draw to paint." And I thought, well, I like the way that sounds. So it's really my weakest point. That's no excuse. But yeah, um, when you're starting out, what is it you're interested in? Copy it and use enough paint. Don't be all precious with your paint. It's like John Carlson said, if you can't afford to paint, only do it once a week or something. But when you do, paint like a millionaire instead of just realizing this costs so much and only just this little tiny bit, Lord, let yourself go and experiment and love your failures. When you get your better eyes, you'll see, oh, that was so terrible. Just means you're improving. Having someone to paint with is awfully nice to do, but I think classes are very important, basic classes, linear perspective, making boxes in the sky or down below and tying them to a vanishing point. It's all very important to play with and learn it. So instead of saying, well, I can't, just do it. Yeah, I met Elva in Frank Erickson's class, and we even shared a studio for about 15 years. It's nice to have a friend, but because it's lonely stuff. So join a group if you need the inspiration or the get together. 10,000 hours, yes, like Malcolm Gladwell said, or 10,000 paintings, but you can't just vomit paint 10,000 times and get any better. You have to show up and really be curious and love the process. Because
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I think that's a really important point. There's that concept of practice makes perfect, but that's not true. It's perfect practice makes perfect.
yeah.
And so you could paint a lot of bad paintings and never grow, or you can find a way to
Mhm.
grow. What is the way to grow?
Well, keep challenging yourself and having questions you need to be answered by solving the problem of what's before you in order to get it onto the canvas that it means something. I know those are big words. It always talks easier than it paints. This isn't easy. Failures to be celebrated because you wouldn't learn anything. I know people that don't ever change because they don't want to change that gift, and I think, oh, come on, it's paint. And we need to separate our egos. We need to leave our ego home because it gets in the way. If you have a bad day, you didn't turn out anything, and oh, woe is me. I just think, well, you were out there, out there enjoying it. For you're not. It's not. It's not who you are. How you paint. It isn't even who you are if you're a fabulous painter. It's just what you do. There's nothing mysterious about it. Although I really worship the gift that people develop in their sensitivity for what they're interested in. I'm always amazed at these wonderful young painters coming up. It thrills me.
Pretty exciting. I mean, I think that we're in an era where there are more good painters alive today than any time in history. And maybe it's because we can see them because of Instagram, but the idea that the quality of artwork it is absolutely as good or better than some of the greats from our past. And they were great, and that's not to diminish
Yes,
them.
right. They were
But
following. They were
there are
following their
painters
path.
alive today that are equally as good as any of those great painters. Lots of
My
them.
my great cousin, LeConte Stewart's son, Dick Stewart, Maynard Dixon Stewart. He mentored a lot of students at San Jose State. And he's a very, very intelligent, lovely man. And he's of the form of the period before the Impressionists. And he said, now, we call your kind of painting, he talks to me, as the broad brush, broad stroke painters. And he has a fairly, not a low opinion, but there's more to it than somebody just running out there and calling himself a painter, because there's a lot of that going on.
Did you get a chance to meet him?
Oh, yes. I did. And when I used to go down to visit my mother in San Jose, and I'd always stop in and see Dick. And when I go to your plein air conventions in Monterey, is it Monterey?
Yeah.
I'd always go through Santa Clara and meet and talk to Dick and go to lunch and talk painting. And he's fabulous. And also he would teach those great black and brown methods from the older paintings, and they were gorgeous. If I use black, it dies.
Did you ever paint him? Did you ever paint with him?
No, wait a minute. No, I painted with his friend, Robert.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't paint with Dick, but I bought a couple of paintings. I tried to copy one. Oh, it was such a lesson. Such a great lesson.
You said that black kills your paintings?
I use it. I don't know how to use it right because I wasn't brought up doing that. So yeah, I'll kill him. But he paints children that take your breath away with those a different palette. Anyway, there's one way, but explore them all that interest you and give yourself a break. You're not trying to paint a great American painting. Just explore. I've got hundreds, nay thousands of plein air starts that I don't throw away. Sometimes I, take a brush to them or a sanding paper. But yeah, they're sort of filling up my house.
So one last question before we roll, and that is, how do you see, what do you recommend to a painter in terms of what they should be looking for when they get out there?
Oh, wonderful. They're looking for pleasant patterns in the darks. Okay. Yeah, the dark and light patterns, but mostly, see, we get faked out by the light. And so we start putting light on, well, you got nowhere to go. You have to start with the darks. And they are the skeleton. And so when I had a mentor thing going, and it was working me and others to death when I did it, but a lot of learning went on there. So they started looking for shapes and practicing these different practices where you do patterns. And then by the time we were through, boy, that's how they viewed a painting, not the subject matter. It could be a bathtub in a pig pen, and it would be great because it was properly done with the shapes and the darks and the lights, and also getting the different colors and shadows and different temperatures. It's just, those practices are important to see it as puzzle shapes. Like I said, that painting behind you, a little painting that's done properly, or that's done in that way, will stand up 2 rooms away. And I don't mean it shouts at you. It fits so perfectly. I know so many wonderful Kate Starling, Shanna Kuntz. It blows me away, and I love learning from them. So yeah, it's the shapes. Learn to see it in the term of shapes instead of objects, and also spatial relationships. Those that uneven thirds, the arthritic thumb finger, yeah, uneven thirds in everything. Dark to light, warm to cool. Patterns of the way the sky goes from dark to light, and either it goes sideways as well as up and down. Things that you have questions about, get them answered. And you can't get the answer before you have the question. Yeah. So that's why curiosity and a passion is really quite helpful.
What are you working on now? What are you trying to improve?
Oh, this is so embarrassing. So I had this painting, and I think you showed it. somewhere back there's a big red rock dude. And yeah, that sucker. So what was interesting, and it turned out to be a really nice painting, but boy, when you look at the references for it, they were, I don't know how I got that painting out of those references. So it got very popular. It was on the front of a book. It was a book cover for national parks, when they did 3 or 4 covers, and it won a purchase award and all this blah, blah, blah. So then I painted it as a demo once, and I used it as the reference. Well, that's just the kiss of death. And so I named the demo The Kiss of Death. Because when you're copying what you've already painted, you can't copy spontaneity. You can't copy those things that come into your mind at the moment. And so I have a friend that's been saving her money for years and years and years for a painting, and that's the one she chose. and I guess so I just painted that damn thing. So what I did to get over that, and I've really put it off for years, but it's almost finished, and I'm not going to show it to you either. So, but I did get rid of the image. I went back to the references, and one of them is I moved the river in from downstream and did a variation of that. But I'm using the original reference and seeing where that gets me.
When you say the original reference, are you referring to a plein air sketch, or are you talking about?
I'm turning it a photograph.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a slide.
Yeah. How much are you getting outdoors to paint these days?
Not enough, and the spring is coming, and I'm really eager to do that. And I don't tell myself I'm going to accomplish anything but waste my time, but it's not a waste of time. But I mean, as far as turning anything out I can show, it's better to forgive myself. I used to liken plein air painting to childbirth. It was painful, and at least you didn't have to raise it, But not to be mean.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, but it's better to go out with a sense of if I don't see anything that's worth painting, I'll look down at the ground and find something, and just put color notes down or make patterns. I took a whole trip to northern New Mexico for the sole purpose of learning to do those pastel red rock colors in light and shadow and different types of day and time of day, because that's very hard for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow in light pastel colors. And I didn't turn out anything that I was proud of, but I sure learned a lot.
Yeah, well, that's what matters, right?
That's all I did. Yeah.
It's not about everything can't be a masterpiece.
No. Don't
Well, Kathryn, this has been absolutely delightful. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
It's been, there's so much knowledge in that brain. You need to just come back to the plein air convention and teach again. We'll have to have you out again. And
I'd love to come. I just don't think I'm up to demonstrating in front of everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can come and paint if you want to come this year.
Yeah, come paint.
Come to your quick drive over to Denver. Come and paint, and we'll make you a field painter. You don't have to demonstrate.
But then I walk up to people and they don't want to talk to me, and I can't help them. And then I see people that really don't know what they're doing, and I'm thinking, Jesus, learn to spell paint before you try. I mean, I'm just so mean.
You could just set up and paint. We'll give you a pass. We won't make you work.
I'd love to come. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathryn. I want to remind everybody that Kathryn, what do we have? Your website? Do we have all that data?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. So kathrynstats.com, and of course on Facebook, Kathryn.stats, and Kathryn Stats on Instagram. And I want to remind everybody that Kathryn's got some great videos out at streamlinepainttube.tv. One is called Seaside Reflections of Southern California. One is called Overview of Mountain Scenery. One is called Lazy Summer Day. And one is called Painting the Effects of Light. They're all fabulous, and you can learn a lot from those. Kathryn, thank you for being on the Plein Air Podcast.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Such a pleasure. She is a joy and a vast amount of knowledge. It's so incredible. So thank you again to Kathryn. Okay, are you guys ready for a little bit of marketing? Well, let's get into that real quickly.
This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
Marketing Minute, I answer your art marketing questions, or at least attempt to, and you can upload a video question to artmarketing.com/questions, or you can email them to me, eric@artmarketing.com, and give Amadine a break because she has to read them. Amadine, what's the first question?
The first question is from Thomas Michael Neiman from Pennsylvania. How do successful artists balance the need to continuously create and improve their craft and do all the necessary tasks required to sell their art?
Well, Thomas, that's a big loaded question. And listen, first off, there's no pressure to sell anything. And I think a lot of people think, well, that's the next step. That's what I'm supposed to do. You don't have to do that unless you have to do that. I mean, if you want to do it, you want to do it to make a living. There are a lot of ways to make a living. You don't have to do that. But if you decide you want to do it, the moment you decide that you're going to be selling your art, you are really deciding to make a commitment, and your commitment level needs to change. Instead of dabbling, you can dabble and sell art, right? You can sell, put a little show together and sell something a couple times a year and a little bit here and there. That's fine. That's dabbling. But if you really want to become a full-time successful artist supporting yourself, then there's a whole thing about that. I've got a series of videos just on that particular topic. And you have to accept the fact that if you're selling paintings to make a living, then you are a full-time artist. And when you're a full-time artist, you're running a small business. And like a lot of small businesses, myself included, when I first started, is you are the product, or the product maker, and the product business owner, right? So it's not unusual. Think about somebody who does something else. Let's just pick like a category like easels, right? So, you have an idea for an easel, you design it and you sell it and you make your own easels. You're out there in your wood shop making it. And then eventually you get enough demand that you can quit your other job so you can just do your products all day and make easels all day, every day. But, if you just made easels, but you didn't focus on how to sell those easels and how to make people aware of them, then you're not going to be able to succeed. So you have to find the balance. In a business, as an artist, you're wearing a lot of different hats, right? My dad always used to say this to me, some days you got to wear your accounting hat. Some days you got to wear your shipping hat. Some days you got to wear your negotiation hat or your sales hat. You got a lot of different things, your gallery hat. But you're never going to change. You're still an artist. You just have to develop muscles in other areas. And so, as an artist, of course, if you've done this, you're in the shipping business, you're in the framing business, you're in the marketing and sales business, because you've got to sell people on coming in and you got to pay the bills. And there's a whole lot of stuff you have to learn. But I like to create what I call time budgets. And it's a concept I use. I highly recommend it. And essentially, start by making a list of everything that you have to do in a typical month. And you say to yourself, okay, I have to do shipping, and I have to do shipping once a week, and that's going to take me 2 hours. You budget 2 hours, and then you put a 2-hour block in your calendar, and you say, this is my shipping time. And you might have teaching. You have to set aside time for teaching. This is my teaching time. This is my marketing time. This is my accounting time. You have to figure out what those things are and what is it going to take. Now, you've got a problem though, and that is that you have to sell a certain number of paintings. Let's say that in order to meet your financial needs, that you have to put 30 paintings out the door every single month. Well, that means you got to do a painting a day. How realistic is that? I mean, some people can do it, some people can't do it, but do you really want to have to do a painting every day, or 2 paintings some days and take the weekends off? And if, let's say, you need 10 hours to do a painting and you got to do 30 of them a month, you don't have time. You got maybe 2 hours left to do something else, and that's already beyond an 8-hour day. So what you've got to do is you got to figure out how to become more efficient. And becoming more efficient is, how can I paint this painting faster? Well, maybe you can't. Some people can, some people can't. But if you can knock 2 hours off the process somehow, then that's 2 hours you're going to get back for relaxed time or for other types of work. But one of the things a way to overcome that is to figure out, how do I get my prices up? Because if I need a certain amount of income and I need to sell 30 paintings, what if I could only do 20 paintings, recapture all that extra time? And how much money do I need if I'm going to hit my numbers to do 20 paintings? And of course, you have to anticipate that if you do 20 paintings, not all 20 paintings are going to sell. How many are going to sell every single month? And how are you going to make that happen? That means you're blocking out time to devote to your sales and marketing, your advertising discussions, all of the things like that. So anyway, it's all about figuring out how much time everything takes and allocating that time. And if you don't have enough time, then you got to figure out, either I got to get some help. And of course, if you get help, you've either got to get volunteer help or you got to have to pay for them. That means now your expenses are higher. You got to sell more artwork, or you got to get your prices up. And I think getting your prices up, most artists underprice their work, and that's a good place. The key to successful balance is to leverage, there's a word, leverage your business. For instance, if you get a gallery or 2 galleries or 3 galleries selling for you, now you don't have to do the selling. Now you still have to do branding and marketing because you want to keep that under your control. You want them to do it for you too, but that's going to help. You look for ways to get people to do things for you. Leverage is, getting somebody to help you out, to help you with your shipping. Or maybe you say to yourself, look, if I spend 10 hours painting, that's productive time. If I'm spending 5 hours on shipping, I'd be better off to pay somebody, $10 an hour or whatever to do that. It's probably not possible anymore. Anyway, being in business is not for the faint of heart, but guess what? It's a wonderful thing because it buys you freedom. You don't have to work for anyone. You got to work for yourself though, but it's still better because you don't have anybody screaming at you, at work, but you got to scream at yourself. You got to say, look, I got to get this done. I have to have this discipline because if I don't do it, I'm not going to be able to keep going. Anyway, all right. What's our next question, Amandine?
The next question is from Beth Carlson from Maine. I'm well known for one style and genre, but want to know how to market to a new preferred style. Do I start a new website? Lower prices because this is a new style and genre? What should I do?
Okay, so Amandine, genre, I suppose, is a French word. You use that over there in France?
I do, and that's not how we say it. We say
How do you
genre.
say it in France?
Genre.
Jean.
Yes, with
Okay.
like the.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I
Terrific.
butchered it.
No, you didn't butcher it. All right. So but we needed to know what it was. So good. So Beth, I would start by asking yourself, why do you want to launch a new style or a new genre, right? And there are really two reasons that I can think of. One is you're not making enough money with what you're doing now, and you think maybe changing things will make it better, or maybe you're just bored. All right. And either one is okay. There's no right or wrong, but let's address these before I get to your question. If you're not making enough money at what you're doing now, what makes you think something new and different is going to sell better once you're established? Because you still have to, if you do something new and different, you're going to have to build name recognition for that. You're going to have to build awareness. You're probably going to have to start at lower pricing. You're going to have to build up interest in that. And the amount of time that takes could take 2, 3, 4 years, right? Whereas you're already known in one particular area. Maybe if you just get a little more excited about that and pour gas on that, make that work, you're going to make more money with it. So that's one thing to consider. If you're bored, that's a whole another thing. If you're bored, you just want to try something different, or you don't want to do what you're doing now, there's nothing wrong. But if you are going to change your style, then are you going to drop the other? Or are you going to keep that going? And I look at that. If you're making money with one thing and you decide to drop it for another, you've lost an opportunity. How about you build that business, you figure out a way to keep it going, keep it generating income, and then launch something new and build that business, but don't give up one for the other. And the reality is you can have a different pseudonym for yourself and have have it be two different artists. I know a lot of artists who do this. And so they have one under their real name. They have a couple of different styles under different other names. They have different galleries selling their work because, people like me get bored. Some days I want to do abstract. Some days I want to do tight realism. Some days I want to do impressionism. And I could, in theory, if I wanted to be aggressive enough, I could have different types of artworks going to different galleries, and that's okay. But where you get into trouble is if you're known, let's say you're known for landscape painting, and you decide all of a sudden, I'm going to start doing abstract painting of portraits, your audience isn't likely to want to buy it. Now, they might. If you're really established, then you can start adding some new things and see how it goes. But if people go to your website for one thing and they see another thing, they get confused, they don't buy anything, that's a problem. You want to have that not happen. So anyway, if you decide you want to do this, if it's about being bored and just trying something different, yeah, you're going to have to figure out what your business strategy is going to be. How are you going to sell it? Yeah, it might be a new name. It might be the same name. It might be a new website. It's probably different ads. It's a whole lot of different things, and you just got to build it and grow it. But I would hang on to what's working. If it's not working, fix it first. If that doesn't work, try fixing it again. If that doesn't work, try fixing it again. If that doesn't work, then maybe try something new. But something new is sometimes going to be more problematic than just fixing something. So avoid confusion with your galleries and your followers, and make sure that you're not confusing the world. And that, I think, solves your problem. Anyway, that's the Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.
Thank Kathryn Stats for being on here today. Thank you. And I hope that Kathryn will come and join us and hang out and paint at the Plein Air Convention. We would love to have her, even though she wouldn't be on stage teaching. She just loves being there. We love having her around. So if you want to come to the Plein Air Convention and hang out with people like her, everybody's very welcoming. You don't have to be at a certain level to come. You can be a beginner. You don't even have to paint to come. You don't have to paint on location if you don't want that pressure. We're just there having fun, and everybody's accepting. So just come to Plein Air Convention. It's coming up in May, and it's going to be in Denver. It's going to be incredible. pleinairconvention.com is where you find out about it. And by the way, if you're not following us by having a subscription to Plein Air Magazine, I think you'll find it to be a really wonderful place to be a place to spend your time, because you're going to learn more about the plein air lifestyle. There's stories about art, artists, techniques, collecting, all kinds of things. So that's at pleinairmagazine.com. Also, I'm on the air daily on Facebook. It's also on YouTube. It's a show called Art School Live, 12 noon Eastern time daily. Just go to YouTube, look up Art School Live, and hit subscribe. That's the easiest way to find it. We've got a little over 100,000 subscribers there now. Thank you for that. And just follow. And it would be love to teach you about art in a lot of different ways. And also, if you don't mind giving me a follow at Eric Rhoads, spell it RHOADS, on Instagram and Facebook. Okay. And if you've not seen Sunday Coffee, that's my blog. It's out every Sunday morning. And I kind of write it for my kids to kind of impart some lessons, but everybody has been passing it along. So I started letting everybody see it. Anyway, it's Sunday Coffee, and you can just go to coffeewitheric.com and subscribe. It's free. Also, that's all I got for today. Thank you again to Kathryn Stats. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher and founder of Plein Air Magazine. And I'm getting excited because as you're listening to this, we're getting started with Plein Air Live. You can still join us late. Just go to pleinairlive.com, and you can watch replays if you missed any of it. It's going to be great. Kathryn Stats is going to be on there doing critiques, by the way. So thank you for watching today. And remember, every day painting is a good day. So it's a big world. Go paint it. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
This has been the Plein Air Podcast with Plein Air Magazine's Eric Rhoads. You can help spread the word about plein air painting by sharing this podcast with your friends. And you can leave a review or subscribe on iTunes so it comes to you every week. And you can even reach Eric by email, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Be sure to pick up our free ebook, 240 plein air painting tips by some of America's top painters. It's free at pleinairtips.com. Tune in next week for more great interviews. Thanks for listening.